Second. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time. Look, today we thought we'd try something a little bit different for content for our members. So, as you all know, we've partnered with ARC Hardware Incubator so that we can connect with skills, we can support the startup community, we can get our members engaged in that space, and we can look at how we can influence the next generation of tech professionals. So as part of that, I met Scott from Bop Industries. Bop Industries, is it, or Bop?
Bop Industries.
Bop Industries, I thought so, yeah. So from Bop Industries, and I was really impressed with Scott's demeanour, his professionalism, and his entrepreneurial focus. So from my discussion with Scott, look, what we're going to do today is really talk about his business and the startup and the journey, which is exciting, but also diversity from a youth perspective. I think, the industry, we're focused on diversity within the gender space, which we absolutely still need to drive stronger. But diversity is a bigger piece, and I think today's something new. We've got a whole bunch of student members and people trying to get into the industry. So we thought it'd be good to hear from Scott's perspective on what he's done and some of those ideas. And he's quite heavily involved with the high school space and working with students. So a great fit. So really we're going to go through kind of where his journey's taken him and how our business or our members and those who might be looking to employ can look to the younger generation, those not necessarily with a significant amount of industry experience, to bring innovation, to bring in new ideas, and to bring a new approach to the business. So look, on that day, Scott, thanks so much for your time, buddy. Over to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and sharing a bit about our story and also to some of our learnings. So I wanted to start with this quote, because we're constantly having to innovate and reinvent ourselves to stay fresh and current. In the current economy, it's to be stagnant is to be dead. And because of that, we're seeing heritage companies flatlining every day. We're seeing companies like Kodak and Blockbuster, or even more recently, Darryl Lee and Max Brenner, national and international brands that are having to really shut up shop due to their inability to adapt and grow. And I think this is something that young people have grown up seeing. So it's something that we know really well and that we really focus on in all the work we do. So whilst we've got all those large companies shutting down, it's also really interesting to watch as we've got tiny upstarts being able to absolutely conquer the markets. They're achieving billion-dollar valuations and sending big businesses packing. We're seeing companies like Netflix, Uber, and Spotify. They're all companies that didn't exist when I was born, and they're the three of the most used apps on my phone right now, and they're some of the biggest companies in the world. Now, there are a couple of common threads between the companies that are conquering the world today, and that is that they all lead by dynamic, diverse teams, and they work fast and they work hard. So I understand it is a bit of a daunting prospect, but it's how I wanted to start this presentation, to get you all thinking about your own comfort zones and what you're doing to reinvent yourself. So my name's Scott. I'm 18 years old, and I'm also the CEO and founder of a company called Bop Industries. Now, to give you a bit of perspective, I was born in the year 2000. I love nothing more than binging Netflix, napping, and going to the beach with my friends. But I'm also the full-time CEO of a company that I started back when I was 14 years old. So I started Bop Industries back when I was 14 as part of a school business project. So part of my school's business program is in term 4 of every year. We get into groups, we develop a product, we write a business plan for it, and we present it to our teachers for $100 investment. Now, my group and I, we developed these things we called #Kieran's. Now, they were nothing special. It was something we made on our school's laser cutter, and they're an original product, a product with a hashtag and then a word after it. And you get them in any color you want and with any kind of wording you want. But whilst it was really simple, it was a really awesome way for us to get started in business. With that $100, we had to budget it out and figure out what we're going to spend on advertising, what we're going to spend on products, and everything in between. And we saw a really quick return. So we saw if we put $100 into Facebook ads, we might get $300 back, and it was instantaneous. But it was a really awesome way to get started. We learned a lot about doing social media marketing for our business, how to deal with suppliers, customers, and everything in between. And it was from there that I was looking for a job as a 14-year-old, but found as a 14-year-old, employers want someone with more experience and more free time. And I wasn't really too interested in the jobs where I was like stacking shelves at Woolies anyway. I wanted to do something exciting. I wanted to do something where I could really put my brain to work. So what I did was I thought, right, let's go back to the markets. Let's keep selling those key rings and learning about business on the way. So what we did was we opened up our market stalls again. We went every Saturday morning for a couple of hours and we made a few $100s every week, which was really exciting. Being able to keep half for myself and put half back into the business. And as a 14-year-old, tuck shop was sorted. It was awesome. And it was from there that we started branching out. Within a couple of months, we opened our own online e-commerce store and we started growing that. And before too long, we were selling thousands of keyrings every month. We were shipping these keyrings to countries I'd never even heard of before. And we would have big companies like QUT and the Queensland Museum placing orders for thousands of keyrings at a time, which was really, really exciting. And at that point, we'd outgrown our school's workshop and our school's laser cutter. So as a 15-year-old, I saved up a few $1,000s and decided to buy myself a laser cutter. So this laser cutter arrived. It was a total bomb. So I had to pretty much pull it apart and I learned how to rebuild this laser cutter just from YouTube tutorials. So as a 15-year-old, learning things really just by doing it myself. And also to seeing just how much stuff you can learn online. So what I'd do is I'd go to school, I'd get home, I'd see what orders had come through on my laptop, and then I'd head down to the post box and ship them off. And it was really, again, a really good way to get started in business and seeing how my business grew and developed. So from there, I decided that keyrings were awesome, but I had realized that technology was really the way of the future, and I wanted to get involved in tech. Now, for me, I didn't really enjoy learning technology in school. Our technology teachers were just a little bit out of touch. They would give us big, long documents full of screenshots of their code, and they'd say, right, copy it from this PowerPoint into your own device, and you'll get a dodgy little website at the end of the term. We'll just get through the term. And it was that kind of attitude and those kind of tasks that really put me off technology as a young person. But I found I was really creative. I loved a lot of that hands-on learning. And through doing things like rebuilding my laser cutter and really playing around with some online tools with my business, I thought, hey, let's give it a crack again and see what we can do. So I jumped on YouTube one night and I found a tutorial teaching me how to make hologram displays, like you see the one in the middle here, sort of similar to what you see in Star Wars and Iron Man, made out of nothing but some cutout CD cases. And I thought that was pretty awesome. So I took it to my school's tech teachers and my design teachers, and I said, right, I've built this product. It's made out of some cutout CD cases. It's a bit flimsy, but can you help me turn it into a real product? And they said, sure. So I spent every morning and every afternoon in my school's design lab for the next 7 days. And within a week, we developed our first product that was all ready to go. And we started selling it again just on eBay and Etsy. And I put the call out. I said, right, I don't know what we're going to use these holograms for, but send us some photos and videos of what you're creating with our holograms, and we'll take that as some inspiration. So as a 15-year-old, I was nearly 16. We launched our holograms, and within a couple of days, we had parents and children in the UK sending us photos and videos of them using our holograms as nightlights as they fell asleep. They'd have a little kitten or puppy dog running around inside their hologram. We had teachers in Singapore using it to deliver content, where they'd dress up for a history class and present a speech as Winston Churchill or Cleopatra, and their students could watch that inside a hologram. And here in Australia, we had a lot of events and marketing companies reaching out saying, hey, we love what you do. Can we use those holograms for our events? So within about 2 weeks of launching, we had a big events company in Brisbane reach out, and they said, look, we love these holograms. We've got a big event coming up with a big client in 2 weeks' time. Can we get an order for 200,000 units? So as a 16-year-old, I was sitting there going, I've got a rundown laser cutter in Dad's backyard. I've got a math exam in 20 minutes. And they said, look, we don't care that you're young. We don't care that you're 16. We want to work with you to help build a whole range of holograms designed for the events and marketing space. So that's exactly what we did. We started prototyping, we started building, and we just got out to every event we could and showcasing our holograms. And it got us to where we are now. So now we have holograms from the size of a phone and tablet up to our life-size 2-meter tall units. We do a lot of our manufacturing at ARC Hardware Incubator here in Brisbane, and it's been absolutely fantastic. We get to work with some really big brands to create holograms of products spinning around. So you can have a pair of glasses spinning around, changing color, changing shape, and changing design. or you can have a life-size keynote speaker doing a full keynote presentation. They can be talking and they can snap their fingers, have a product floating in their hand. They can wave their arm and have a bar graph shoot out of their arm. Some really cool stuff like that. And from there, we found there are a lot of schools and universities reaching out saying, hey, can you teach our students how to do what you do? So we started running some workshops, initially just teaching people how to make their own holograms. But since launching our workshops 12 months ago, we've worked with over 12,000 students across Queensland, teaching them about technology with a focus on creativity, commercializing STEM developments, entrepreneurship, and also storytelling. And it's been absolutely fantastic. We're on our regional tour at the moment, so working with schools in every region from the Gold Coast all the way up to far north Queensland, and doing our national expansion next year. So a bit about where we are now. We did our first market stall 3 years ago, and since then we've shipped over 10,000 keyrings to over 20 countries around the world. We created our first hologram 2 years ago, and since then we've built over 3,000 units and shipped those and done over 100 events. And we did our first workshop 1 year ago. We've worked with over 12,000 people, and we have over 15 workshop facilitators on our staff. So as for where I am now, I've graduated year 12 last year. I deferred university and turned down 2 university scholarships, which was a really terrifying prospect. But running the business full time, we've got a team of 20 around us, and we get to work in the Brisbane co-working and startup space, and we have an absolute ball. So we've got a fantastic team working with a whole range of startups to do some really cool stuff, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I'll dive into a bit more about our team a little bit later, but that's just a bit of background about me, my experiences, and also too, I think, just to show that young people can do some really extraordinary things. So for me, I don't have a super businessy family or anything like that. It was just something that I got to experience, real world experiences. And I really ran with it. Like, I know for myself, one of the defining moments, I think, in as much of my career as I have had it up to this point, was when I was in grade 10 and I did a work experience placement in one of the co-working spaces in Brisbane. And it was really cool. All of my friends, they were doing their work experience at a dentist's, at a doctor's or something like that, and they were just sweeping floors or sitting around bored out of their brains. And at this co-working space in Brisbane, I remember the first day I got to meet with a bunch of politicians from around Brisbane to discuss terms of a new premises opening up. On the second day, I got to give a tour to a visiting delegation from India. And then on the rest of the week, I got to work directly with the team to plan a massive charity lunch at a big fancy restaurant in Brisbane. So it was really cool to see as a 15-year-old to have that experience. It was at that point that I said, right, I want to work in the startup space for the rest of my life. And it's those experiences where you really give kids responsibility that it really makes an impact with them. So that's a bit about my story, but I also want to share with you some of the awesome stuff that young people are doing all across Queensland and all across Australia. So in year 9 in Rockhampton, there's a group of students that are working with local farmers to utilise new and emerging technologies for their marketing and agriculture. So these students are in year 9, they're using augmented reality, geolocation, and holograms. So they're developing a platform so you can walk into Coles or Woolworths. You can scan a packet of mints and see a little augmented reality experience of Farmer Jim popping up and talking to you about how he takes care of his mint. And so we're doing some really cool stuff like that from regional Queensland. In Hervey Bay, we've got a group of year 10s and a group of year 12s. The group of year 10s are currently exploring drone technology, so they can develop a drone that clears up all the pollution, all the rubbish in their waterways, brings it back to land and starts recycling it. And then in year 12, they've got a group of students that are opening up a cafe that's run by young people for young people as a safe space for teens. So it's tackling youth unemployment and youth crime. So it's a space that is really safe that kids can come to after school, that's cool and they actually want to go to. And they do things like movie nights, they do study groups and everything in between. In year 10 on the Sunshine Coast, there's this really awesome group of students that are developing products to solve anxiety and depression in natural ways without medication. So they're currently developing a pillow that mimics human heartbeat and also radiates heat like a human. So when you cuddle it as you're falling asleep, it feels like there's another human lying next to you, which has been proven to lower your heart rate and also to help relieve some of the symptoms of anxiety and depression. In Western Australia, there's a group of year 11 students that are developing a platform that connects elderly people that love to cook but have no one to cook for, with young families that don't have time to sit down for a home-cooked meal as a family, to sit down and bring them together. And in Brisbane, there's a group of Year 12 students and a whole range of young people that are building programs that are run by students for students to bring education back to a new and exciting space. So, if there's nothing else you get from this presentation, remember this slide, please. Take screenshots, do whatever you need to do. So my first points throughout this presentation is to show you just how awesome young people can be. So on your team, ideas can come from anywhere. Just because someone's only been with your company for a couple of months or they've only a few years into their career doesn't mean they can't have some really awesome ideas. And then also too, having a chat about the importance of diversity. So diversity in teams is something that's really key. Also too, on how you can treat your team like a startup. So taking that real startup approach to a lot of your projects, and also too, looking at thinking differently. So how you can bring a bit of magic back to your work. So to give you a bit of a guide of just how digitally savvy us young'uns are, I want to give you a bit of a guide of my childhood. So born in the year 2000, I don't know a world without internet, and I never had to use dial-up. My biggest challenge was remembering the Wi-Fi password. My first device was an iPod Touch and a Nintendo DS. And because of this, our generation are called digital natives. We've grown up surrounded by technology. And because of this, we've got a really good and really unique understanding of technology and how it works. And we're the generation that's currently heading into the job market. So for me, all of my friends are in first year uni. They're the ones that are applying for internships with companies like yours. They're the ones looking at starting their own companies that might even rival yours one day. But we're really crucial, I think, to any team. Now, trust me, we don't have it all figured out. We're far from it. And that's why we need people like yourselves to mentor us. And together we can really achieve some really extraordinary things. So the number one thing that I see in our workshops is that young people have got no idea just what they're capable of. But the moment you show them that they can do something, they're like a duck to water. They'll take advantage of it and they'll run with it. And this applies to your teams as well. You'd be surprised some of the ideas and opinions a pair of fresh eyes can bring to your team. And it's really important to build a culture where new recruits and junior team members feel really comfortable sharing those ideas, and in an environment where sharing is not only encouraged, but is valued as well. So remember, good ideas can come from anywhere, and all ideas and suggestions should be valued and treated as equal. So my next point's around reverse mentoring. Now, this is something that I'm really, really passionate about at the moment and something that we've seen work so well. And I love referencing one of my favorite movies, The Intern, to talk about this a little bit more. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's really awesome. Now, reverse mentoring, it relates to my previous point around empowering youth, but it takes it one step further. So the whole idea of reverse mentoring is that young people have got so much that they can learn from older people, but older people have got so much that they can learn from young people as well. We live in a world today where no one has all the answers, and every different age group and every different demographic brings something new to the table, and it's up to us to find out what that is. So for me, every new person I meet, I always take the view of every person I talk to. They've got something that I can learn from them and something that I can teach them. And it's just about finding that in every single conversation you have. So for me, I know if it wasn't for my mentors, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am now. And it's really important for, I guess, those more experienced people to take someone under their wing and say, hey, I'm going to help you out as long as you can help me out. And I think it's about having those conversations and those relationships where a mentor isn't condescending, like they don't make the other person feel dumb. You make them feel inspired and empowered, and open to share their ideas. So I also want to quickly have a chat about diversity and also acknowledging our unconscious bias. So being a young person myself, I see a great deal of diversity, but also to a lack of diversity in different companies. Now, I know we hear about it a lot, but in a recent Deloitte study, the number one excuse people gave for why they didn't have diverse teams is because they didn't have enough time to worry about it. So diversity shouldn't be an afterthought. It shouldn't be something you have to worry about after the fact. It should be something you're incorporating in every decision you make, and especially every hiring decision. So at BOP, our team of facilitators, we have 15 facilitators. They range from 14 to 54 years old. They come from 7 different nationalities. Together they hold 10 totally different degrees, from psychology through to education, through to mechatronics and everything in between. But we're connected through passion, determination, and drive. and we get along like a house on fire. So the way we hire our teams is a little bit different as well. Instead of just going directly to seek.com or anything like that, we put out the call through a range of different platforms. We go to university networks, we go to different groups, and we go to different communities, because we know if we put out a whole range of, if we put out our jobs to a whole range of different communities and make sure that a range of different segments of people and a range of different people are seeing these job applications, we're going to get a really diverse range of applications. And that means we no longer have to focus on meeting quotas. We just genuinely hire the best people for the job, and we can be sure that those people come from a diverse background because we've had such a big pool to choose from. Now, don't just take my word about diversity. I want to show you some of these statistics. So in the ASX 200, we have more CEOs named Andrew than we have female CEOs. So that's a bit of an appalling statistic and a fact, I think. And I think it's something that shows just how hard it is and why we really need to be champions. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're from a range of different ethnic backgrounds, everyone can be a champion for diversity. And it's important for everyone to speak up, have that voice, and start calling people out on it. So as well as that too, we're seeing companies with gender diversity yielding a 34% higher shareholder return than those without gender diversity. Companies with ethnic diversity are 33% more profitable. And also too, in a recent study, blind job applications. So job applications that were given in just purely based on their experience, not on their personal details. 5 times more women got hired than they did with personal details attached. So just have a think about that. Have a think about that unconscious bias when you're hiring, and also too, just in your conversations. So unconscious bias is so important because all too often we don't even know we're doing it. And it can be things that you might be meaning well, but can really make a lot of damage. So for me, I've got a fantastic team, and one of my team leaders, she's an absolute rock star, but she's 54 and she's 54 years old. So she's really awesome, really dynamic, and she's a self-described big kid. Now, she and I went to Sydney the other week to speak at a conference, and I was doing a presentation, actually on diversity, funnily enough, and she was helping out. We had a box stall set up with some holograms on showcase. Now, the morning I was out doing a few meetings and having some conversations, but over lunch I popped back so my team member could go get some lunch. Now, while I was sitting at this stall, I was sitting there just replying to a couple of emails, and someone came over and they said, I was just wondering, is your mum nearby by any chance? I was just looking for your mum. And I was like, oh, why is that? And he's like, oh, well, I'd like to make an inquiry about buying some holograms. I assume she makes the decisions, right? And just without even meaning it, I was sitting there, I was like, I have no desire to do business with you. I have no respect for you and anything you've just said. So he probably thought he was meaning well. And also, just for clarification, she was not my mum and she did not make the decisions. But it was just his unconscious bias. To be fair, he did speak very out of turn. He shouldn't have used that, made those assumptions in the first place. But just be really conscious when you're having these conversations. One thing that I always am making sure about now that I've started pulling myself up on is I always say, hey guys, a lot in our workshops at school. I don't mean it by any means, but one thing I've started pulling myself up on it, and I'm starting to say things like, hey team now. So it's really important in your teams, if you hear people saying something that that doesn't quite sit right with you, to speak up, let them know, so then they can start correcting it for future. So that's a bit about diversity and building some diverse teams. But once you've got an awesome team, it's so important to build a really good culture. I see so many corporates that come to me and say, oh, look, if we want to work like a startup, we've got to have like those Google style offices. We better get the nap pods and the bean bags and the table tennis tables. But all too often, it's really important to build a good culture first. I walk into so many spaces with the table tennis tables and the nap pods that have got the worst culture ever because they've invested in the space rather than the community. So for me, I work in a really cool co-working space in Brisbane with one of, I think, hands down the best culture that I've ever been surrounded with. And this is just a glimpse of a week, a week in this co-working space. So on Mondays, we do something we like to call Mindfulness Mondays, where we do some meditation, we do some yoga, and we do some mindfulness. It's totally free for any members. It takes place at around 4 o'clock every Monday afternoon. They say, hey, if you want to come and do some meditation we'll have someone doing some guided meditation with us. On Tuesdays, they have something called Learn from a Burner, where a member gets up and does a presentation on something that they know a lot about, whether it's SEO and marketing, whether it's operations, finance, and anything in between. On Wednesdays, we do Whiskey Wednesdays, where around 4:30, 5 o'clock, everyone that wants to comes around, and we just sit around and have a chat and drink some whiskey. On Thursdays, we do Toasty Thursdays, where the team that runs the space, they get about 10 toasted sandwich makers. They deck out the kitchen with them, and everyone just makes toasted sandwiches and sits around and eats together. And then we do a personal training session in the afternoon. And then on Fridays, we do drinks and pitches. So it's something that is, I think, often overlooked, the culture, but it's something that can be as simple as doing some cool events and fun events like this to get everyone having those conversations and building those genuine relationships. Now, once you've got that culture, it's also really important to run your teams like a startup. So whilst you might work in a really big company, you don't need to overhaul the entire company's management structure. You can just start running it with your team. So this is something we use a lot in the startup space, and I also get my students to use in our workshops, which is the idea of implementing, testing, and iterating. So it pretty much says that if you have an idea, implement it, put it into action straight away. Then let it run for a bit, get a lot of data and metrics around it, then you test it. So start testing it, get that data, and then you iterate it. So you do a revision, you say, look, what worked well, what didn't work well, what can we change for next time? And it should be a continuous loop. This was something that I was really excited to see teachers even using the other week at a couple of schools around Brisbane. And it's something that can have some really awesome results. So my final point for today is around the importance of human interaction and the ability and the opportunity for your junior team to work openly and also to challenge the senior leaders. So just because you've got a happy team that has no conflicts doesn't mean that you're working really well, you've got an awesome culture. For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction. You need conflict, argument, and debate. So making sure you have opportunities for your whole team to come together and discuss different things that are happening, voice their opinions and not be afraid to be shut down, rather empowered to help share their opinions and ideas to make sure you've got the best possible outcomes for the following year. So don't just smile and nod, voice your opinion and challenge beliefs. So that's a bit of a wrap up from me, and I'm going to leave you with a famous quote from Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, which is move fast and break things. So always be implementing, always be testing, and always be iterating. Challenge people, share your opinions and ideas, and also to take a chance on young people. We've got some really awesome ideas out there, and it's up to you to harness our ideas and bring you on board as part of your team. Thank you very much.
Good on you, Scotty. No, that's really good, mate. Well done. Everyone, you can send some questions through in the Q&A, so please send those through now while we've got a little bit of time with Scott. We've got one here, though. What are your thoughts about the productivity if you provide an environment full of fun activities?
I think it's interesting. One thing that I see in an environment full of fun activities, I'll admit, I'm one of those people that gets distracted by shiny objects. So when I first started, I was like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this. But I think it helps your team, grow up a little bit too and develop that maturity where you realize, oh, wait, I do have a deadline. I've got to be productive. I've got to get that done. It's more giving them the opportunity to take that break if they need to and take that breather. I know so often you'll find yourself in an office with everyone with their heads down working, and something bad might have happened and you're close to being ready to scream. And with everyone else working with their heads down working, there's no one you can talk to. It's just really about building that community where you're able to get up from your desk and go and have a conversation with someone, or go and grab a coffee, or just get out of the office, or just do something to distract yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm with you. I mean, it's great to have ping pong tables and some pool tables and stuff in an office, but at the end of the day, you still got to deliver on what you're doing. And I think it's great to have a culture that's fresh and young and vibrant and exciting, and I think builds a culture around that. But yeah, the words fun and business don't always go together, and I think that you need a really disciplined approach no matter what environment you're working with there. So we get stressed all the time. I mean, mate, jobs full on it all the time. I'd love to go and have pinball tables and run there, but also then I know the balance between I've got to deliver on what's required. So yeah, it is a balance, and I suppose it's creating new dynamics for businesses. You'll find a lot of traditional leadership struggles with that space, I think, to bring those elements into a business, because they are so comfortable, like you said, and you get in their comfort zones with, you know, what they're used to. And I think you've got to, you know, part of your cultural transformation, your digital transformation, or, you know, your innovation, it needs to look at the business as a whole, not just, you know, how do we innovate with our processing, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got another one for you, mate. Most of us are afraid of shutting down. Do you have any tips to overcome that?
Shutting down as far as a company or as a person, or?
I think maybe as a person. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're never too old to be a big kid would be my advice.
Yeah.
So I think I see a lot of old, like more mature age people that are starting to get worried about, like, oh, with all this young innovation, fresh stuff, like, am I going to be able to keep up? And the answer is 100% yes. It's just about the attitude and the mindset you take. If you want to totally tap out of that and say, no, I'm not dealing with innovation, I'm going to pretend like it's not happening, I'm going to pretend like young people aren't coming into the business, and I'm going to pretend like I'm not aging. I think that is a decision, but probably not one that I would make. And it's where we start seeing people, people starting to lose their place. It's really up to you, I think, to take that initiative and say, hey, you know what, I will catch up with the young, fun people that have just joined the company, and I'm going to find out, like, what games are they playing, what are they reading, what movies are they watching, stuff like that, and just really about putting in that effort. I think it's kind of the same thing, like, even as a young person myself, I always have to do the same thing. I'm like, I've always got to figure out, like, what's trending right now, what's not trending, where do I need to be spending my attention so I can stay relevant and I can stay young. So it's something that happens at every age. Don't, like, if you're mature age and you think you're totally out of touch, don't worry. So are we. Like, young people can barely keep up. It's just about putting in that time and effort, I think, to really spend and dedicate on making sure that you're able to have those conversations, you're able to stay relevant, and you know what's happening.
Yeah, and that comes down to diversity too, I think, Sally, with, you know, accepting people for who they are and their opinions and their thoughts. And, you know, everyone brings a valid point to a conversation or a discussion or a disagreement, whatever it might be. You know, I've seen a lot. You're right. You know, one of the best graduate programs I've seen in Queensland within one of the biggest tech organisations is they use the graduates for R&D. But what they do is have, you know, your more experienced people there to guide, because, you know, as much as, you know, we want to be fresh and young and vibrant and bring all that in, we've still got to be grounded. We've still got to have that pipeline of knowledge transfer, I think, so critical in business these days. You know, I've been in businesses where there's people that have been there for 35 years, you know, and I'm talking 30 of them. This is when I was in the media industry. And they, like, one lady left high school and walked into a admin job and hasn't left, right?
Wow. Yeah.
What they have as a knowledge of the business and in the industry is sometimes unmatchable. And I think the combination of youth and energy and innovation and experience and knowledge and grounding, those two together make a, you know, formidable team, because if you can get the dynamics and the team respect and culture right, that, you know, you're going to look at things from totally different perspectives, from new ideas. And I think it's, you know, having both of them is really important these days.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And here's a couple more questions. Thanks, everyone. Keep sending them through. If you have an idea, what should be the next step to implement that as a business?
I think my advice would be just start. This is going to be a little bit contradictory to a lot of the opinions, I think, in the startup space at the moment, but I would say start simple. You don't have to go out and raise $200,000 and build a really big comprehensive business to be able to get started. No. Like for me, I just started at the local markets selling keyrings, and I think a lot of it is about your network. So even if you don't have an idea for a business, just start going along to those networking events, going along to those meetups, and getting your name out there, getting to know who's who in the space, and really seeing how they can help you, but also to seeing what ideas they've got and what feedback they've got on your idea. So I love the concept of the minimum viable product. So it's like, what is the most basic thing you can build without spending little to no money to get your idea to work? And then you're always developing on it. So you should never build a product before you talk to at least, I think, like 50 people about it, I think is pretty much what people say. But yeah, talk to a lot of people, become known in the space, but also don't worry if you don't have an idea to start a business. I think at the moment, everyone's so caught up on having to be the founder, but it's also totally okay to be part of the team as well. Like, founders need a support network and they need people that can help bring that idea to life. So see what other ideas are out there. I can guarantee if you go to those networking events, you'll find at least 5 businesses that are currently hiring and looking for extra help and extra staff. And it's just being about willing to roll up your sleeves, help out where you can, have those conversations, and just getting started doing something, because that'll build your experience, build your reputation, and build your reliability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you think young people should start a startup company rather than going to uni? And I've got an opinion, but I'll let you go first on this one.
I think young people can totally do both. So I'm seeing so many young people at the moment that are like, stuff the system, like drop out, like kill everything, just go like hard on your startup. And I'm like, there's no reason why you can't do both at the same time. So for me, when I was in school, I was one of those kids that was at school from 7 in the morning till 7 at night with extracurriculars, with sport and performing arts. I was an A/B level student, so doing relatively well academically, but I still found time to run my startup as well. And I think it's just about your time management skills and your multitasking. And also too, it's if you're passionate about everything you do, you'll make it work and it won't even feel like work. So my advice would be for young people to probably not start. Yeah, I wouldn't advise young people to start a business right out of the bat, right out of school, where they have to raise large amounts of money to do the impossible. I would say start simple, start building that experience and building your knowledge, because you're going to stuff up a couple of times along the line. It's just a given. I think it's just much better when you stuff up if you've only lost $200 rather than $200,000. So I would say start simple, start small, but also to find some mentors and also like help out with some other startups. If you don't have an idea yet, don't force it. Go work for someone else. Go see what you can learn from them. And everything like that. I'd be keen to hear your views there, Russ.
Yeah, look, I'm on the fence a bit, but I'm not. Like, at the end of the day, university will only do so much. It's a great fundamental, but it's not. You go and get it. If you're out there thinking you're going to study a 3 or 4 year degree and walk into a job at Google, I'm sorry, but you're kidding yourself. That's the problem, and that's the challenge with industry. They want experience, and they need people who have applied their technical knowledge from a degree or from studies. And this is a major area that I work with our members, with industry, is to trying to bridge those gaps between education and industry. Startups, I absolutely feel, can provide a channel for project-based experience for students, and that's from high school as well. So, you know, to your point, Scotty, get out there, get your hustle on and get involved with these startups, because if they can give you some experience applying what you're learning at uni, that's as good as industry, in the sense that industry will regard that as an application of your skills. Now, they're only, you know, and that's, I think, the combination of the two. And to your point too, you don't have to start a startup. Just, it's almost a new industry. And you've got the opportunity as students, while you've got no debts, you're not married, you haven't got any of the life burdens that are out there at times. Get in there, mate. Go and, like you say, do a combination of both. Absolutely, formal learning's is a pathway to take. Is it for everyone? No. I mean, the amount of industry professionals within our member base that I've talked to that don't have a degree, but have got 40 years experience on the job. Now, they don't need the degree because the degree for them would be out of date to a degree. So there's that balance. And I think, like you say, it's an extracurricular activity, get your hustle on, but just get involved with the space. So
And
got
I
a
think as
couple.
well, it's so important to get involved with those startups.
Yeah.
I think with startups, we need as many hands as we can get and as much help as we can get because there's so much to do and not enough time to do it.
Mm.
So if you're looking for something like an internship or a project-based learning experience, come work for a startup because I can guarantee you the work you do will be implemented into that startup and will genuinely help them build and succeed. It's not just if you go to a big business where it gets put in a filing cabinet or anything like that. Like we're going to use it, we need it. And as well as that too, we can help you meet really cool people and get connections. But I think on your point as well with going at it while you're young, yeah, I absolutely take that view. I'm like, I've got no partners, no children, no big responsibilities to pay. Let's just work hard at it. Go hard or go home kind of thing. While we've still got that stamina to be able to work really hard, I think it's important to take advantage of that. So that when it does come time to wanting to settle down, you've got the ability to do that really easily. So I'd say, if you're a young person, just go out, work really hard at it. Like I'm in the city, like I'm in the office about 10 hours a day. At least I'm usually working around like 12 to 14 hours a day, but it's because I love it. And it's because the opportunities that it gives me are just second to none.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've really answered this next one is about recent graduates looking to get their first role with for someone with experience. I think we've covered that. Look, you need this experience, you need pathways, right?
And I would say as well for like a recent graduate, I always say this to every student I talk to is be annoying. So if someone gives you their card, if you have someone that you really respect and admire, send them an email and like follow up, send them text messages, find them on social media and like their posts, comment, share, everything like that so you can stay front of mind for them. For me, I mentor a bunch of young entrepreneurs and school students and uni students. And because of that, like I'm really, really busy and I genuinely don't mean to take extended periods of time to get back to emails, but it's just because I've got so much on. If you send me a follow-up email, like 3 to 5 days after we talk, it goes back to the top of my inbox and I see that again and I say, oh, yep, there's Ross. He keeps like staying in front of mind. He's really keen and it shows you're passionate. And same with as well, I always see the people that consistently like and comment on my social media posts. It just gives me a little bit of refresher and keeps them front of mind for me. So when an opportunity comes up for them, they're the first person I think about. So I'd say stay hungry and also too, like stay a little bit annoying. Make sure you're front of mind because that's how you get those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've got one more here, mate. Is how can we improve our time management skills? You've mentioned that.
Oh, yes. Time management skills. My best bit of advice is to figure out how your body works and what time, like when your optimal times are. So for me, I remember back when I was in school, like I've got a new schedule now that I run you through after, but I remember back in school, what I used to do is I'd get up about an hour before I needed to be. I'd go through all of my emails, clear out my inbox to get a head start on the day because I knew when I was fresh and early, well, when I woke up, it was a nice way to warm up. And then as soon as I was warmed up, I was fresh, I was ready to go and I was getting a head start on the day. Then I knew I'd like get ready for school, go to school. And then I knew when I got home from school, I had to have a 20-minute nap. I figured out like through a lot of trial and error that 20 minutes was like the perfect amount of time for me to nap, to just recharge those batteries, give me a bit of sleep so then I could work through the night. So then I'd get up, I'd do a bit of work in the afternoon, take a bit of time for myself as well. In the afternoons, like I'd just be on Instagram, messaging friends, stuff like that, have dinner. And then straight after dinner, I was really creative. I was doing like a lot of my creative work and doing designs and stuff like that. But then it was also something that I could chat to friends at the same time. And then I knew after about 10 o'clock, friends started to go offline and go to bed. And from 10 o'clock till midnight, 2 a.m., I was able to do like my really intense focused work. And then start the day again. And then like even now I schedule out times for different stuff. So I don't do any personal stuff on my phone during the day. I reply to emails, texts, calls, do my business social media. And then it's even just simple things like for me on the bus on the way home every day, I allocate that time to just spending with my friends, switching off and talking to people. And yeah, just figuring out those kind of things with your body, like when you work best, and making sure you've got time set out for you. So for me, it was like setting an internal body clock schedule for what I needed to be doing and when.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, mate, that's fantastic. I think we've covered some new ground today. It's really good to unpack this a little bit and open people's eyes to the possibilities of, I suppose, greater diversity within their organisations and how we can look to youth for that innovation, that that digital nativeness and how we can break old models, I think is a really good thing. To your point too, you're talking about Kodak. I heard the other day, and it was one of those really exciting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So we've heard of Blockbuster, we've heard of all this Kodak stuff, right? Did you hear Kodak brought out a cryptocurrency?
Did they? They're still going. Wow.
So, So think of this. They had film, right? They missed the digital revolution, but they built a blockchain cryptocurrency for professional and amateur photographers to upload their imagery and transact automatically. Because what it did is it took all the piracy out of the market and it created immediacy in payments, which was the two biggest challenges. So an old dinosaurs out there pushing one of the most revolutionary technologies now within the blockchain space. I saw that probably 3-4 months ago, and I was like, I can't wait to see where this goes, because almost that they've learned from their mistakes and they've gone, well, we've missed digital, let's not bother with that. We're going to go where this is heading and be even more futuristic. And I was blown away. I was blown away with it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. That's so exciting to see, really an old dog learning new tricks.
Yeah. And for a business of that size to survive through that downturn and have enough vision and skill and I suppose, foresight to look at where they can take it and create an impact. Yeah, I was really blown away with that one.
Oh, that's so fantastic to hear. Thank you for sharing. It's awesome.
No, you're right. Just every time someone brings that up, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that's right. That can't come up. So, mate, look, I'm going to leave it at that today. But, look, I really appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll talk to you again, mate, get you involved with some other ACS stuff. You've got Scott's Instagram there if you want to connect. But thanks for your time, buddy, and really appreciate all your insights today.
Not a worry. Thanks for having me, everyone. Bye.
See you, mate. Bye.